Voila! Something in my hand, very small. Yep, we're going to review just for a second, and I'll probably do this 1,000 times over time. Jesus Christ became a human child. He was God in human flesh, which is fantastic. How does that work? Well, I don't know completely, but I'll say this. I believe very strongly that his spirit was human, but it was really God in nature, inside. Human body, totally. Features of Mary, his mother, probably looked like her some. Hair, nose, eyes, everything. God became wrapped in human skin. What a Christmas gift, huh? First Christmas. So the next story that we're studying is in Matthew chapter 2. And we're beginning with chapter 2. And I'll see how far we can go. I'll try and keep it kind of skim across the top here of this. But I do want to mention something that's very confusing to Christians a lot of times. And that is, if we had a timeline of Jesus, a couple really interesting facts. You know, if you want to, you can make comments in the bottom, or you can't make a comments on this. This is a children's video. I don't know, get a hold of me somehow. If you can. Or just study it. You know, the fact is, we have, like, we're going 2,000 years back. And Jesus actually, I want to mention this, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it goes back like this. This is BC, and then AD, which doesn't mean after death. It means, it's Latin for Anno Domini, which means year of our Lord. Year Anno, like año, is Spanish. Años. ¿Cuántos años tiene? You know. And then D means Domini, which means dominion or Lord. It's year of the Lord. It's talking about the year of the Lord's birth. And BC obviously means before Christ of his birth. And there's no really zero. It's -1 going that way, -2, -3, -4, like going years back, time travel back. And then you have 1 AD, 1 2 AD, 3, 4, 5 AD 2. Now, what's cool, what's interesting, just a quick fun fact, which I could talk about this for a long time and prove it. The fact is, our timeline is messed up. Dionysius, a French monk, which means Dennis the Short, and about 500 something, I think it's 520 something, maybe 525, I don't know what it was, I can't remember exactly. He kind of messed up on the calendar. I don't think he had Josephus writings. He didn't have enough material, and he was the one that gave us our timeline. 2000 and whatever year, you know, you are living in right now. Right now it's 2020 right now, you know, that I'm doing this video. But the fact is, if you go back here, going back like this, the fact is, it had to have been before Christ when he was born. And just a real quick note on this is because Herod the Great died in 4 BC. And you'll see in this story coming up that Herod the Great tried to kill Jesus. And so if he died at 4 BC and Jesus was born over here at like 1 AD or something, that it's kind of messed up. So our calendar should be about, I would say, between 4 and 6 years. Like it's 2020 right now. It really should be 2026. Isn't that interesting? We kind of messed up, or he accidentally messed up. We should add 6 more years this way. And I believe it was literally here, you know, that Herod tried to kill the baby Jesus, which is 6 BC. All right, interesting fact. But let me go into another thing about this timeline. And let's do it this way. I'll just erase all this part and kind of fill this out a little. Let's say this was the birth of Jesus. Okay, the birth of Jesus. Or let's say this is the stories of Jesus. Like this is, and it's found in Luke 1 and 2 and Matthew 1 and 2. Okay, so it was in Luke 1 and 2, 4 chapters about the birth of Jesus. Now, what Matthew does is he skips a lot of the stories, such as, if you know anything about the story, you know, Mary, Gabriel visited Mary. First, Zacharias and Elizabeth. This is all Luke 1, you know. Then Mary, and then Mary. Then there was a census, you know, and then they went down to Bethlehem, and they, you know, he was born and laid in a manger. Shepherds came. Then he went to the temple. 33 days later, got circumcised, and then da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden we come into what people call 3 wise men and all that. That's what Matthew picks up. So Matthew skips all these stories that I just kind of mentioned, a bunch of them. I don't know how many. I didn't write the right number probably. One story after another. And he decided, I'm going to skip those. It's not my purpose in writing these. And he jumps to that one. And Jesus, by that time, you ready? I believe he was 2 years old because Herod tried to kill all the babies from 2 years old and under. That could have been a year and a half, maybe a year or something. At least he wasn't an infant. As a matter of fact, you'll read as you read this, he wasn't an infant. He wasn't a baby at that time. He was a little child, it says. And they were in a house. They were living in Bethlehem in a house. I think it's probably one of his family members, his ancestors and all. Maybe his like great cousin or uncle, whatever. I don't know. But anyway, so he kind of misses all these. He didn't have to write it. Luke chose to write it, and God put what he wanted in the Bible anyway. So he was 2 years old in this story. So let me kind of read this real quick, kind of skim across again. We could settle on each one and kind of talk about it. It's kind of cool. But for time's sake, let's keep it short. And Jesus was born at Bethlehem in Judea. And I kind of do a map last time where it was. In that region of Judea. And it was during the time of King Herod. There's different Herods in the Bible, but this is Herod the Great. He wasn't great. That was his, people named him. The only thing that he was really great at, there's probably a few other things, but he was rotten. He killed like hundreds of people to get to the throne, and he was power hungry. He was a mess. Herod was really evil. He killed his first wife that he actually loved. Then he tried to almost commit suicide because he killed her, but he was so jealous. And he was concerned about, he killed his first son. He had, by the way, 10 wives. And then he killed his first wife who he really, really loved because she was plotting against him, it seemed like that to him. And then he killed one of his first sons. It wasn't Archelaus, I can't think of it, Aristobulus or something. He killed him, his first son, because he thought he was going to try and take his throne. They were paranoid in those days. They were really like evil, and they just didn't want anyone to take his power. Anyway, so this was Herod the Great. Oh, the thing he was really great at was building things. I mean, he was phenomenal, almost a genius. He was really a genius, actually, in building cities, and he even built something underwater. In those days, how did they go down there without scuba diving equipment and everything else? It's like crazy. It's really interesting. Look up Herod the Great if you're old enough to do that. And study his life. It's fascinating. I actually have tons of notes on him, but we're skimming across. All right, then it says, and he was, it was during that time. And now what happened is these, well, people said wise men, people think of them as kings and all that, but I don't think they were wise probably. But the actual word is Magi, okay? And without going to a deep study, it seemed like they were maybe from, well, let me draw a map here. Here's Israel right here, in short, for a smaller version. And here's the lake, the Sea of Galilee comes up here, Lake Kula, and then Jordan River, and then you have the Mount Hermon, different mountains up in here. And then you have Jordan River comes down here. Then you have the Dead Sea, okay, something like that, a little fat there. Okay, all right. Then you have Jerusalem right here. You have Nazareth, and Nazareth is here. Bethlehem is here, a smaller dot, really small dot. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see all that, but here it is. Now, the Magi came from the east. That's way over here. Where did they come from and who are they? It's kind of a mysterious group. And how many were there? There's a tradition that there were 3, but I don't know. The reason there were 3, they think, is because they did give, or they recorded, the Bible records, Matthew mentions 3 different gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh, that was given to Jesus by them. That's kind of why they said 3, but the Bible doesn't say. It could have been 8 of them, 10 of them. And they probably, almost for sure, came with a huge caravan of people. And we'll kind of get into that as we go into the story. I'll try and keep it short again. So where are they? I mean, where are they from? Well, it could have been from way up here in the Babylonian area, Babylon, I'll say. Or it could have been way over here, Persia or something. Who knows? But they came from the east. And you had these rivers, Tigris and Euphrates and all. So they came, and probably they did not travel that way because this area is really hard on travelers, and there's not a whole lot of cities out there. It's pretty desert-like. There's Bedouins and shepherds out here, scattered here, and they knew how to find the right food in the water and all that for their people, but for their animals. But they probably came up here, traveled up here, way up here, and then came down here, kind of like Abraham did. And they came down here. Now, what happened is they saw this. I don't know. It's probably supernatural sort of light in the sky. It looked like a star. It wasn't probably an actual star. Maybe it was, but the star, like, wow, check that thing. It looks like a star. And they probably read, there's certain scriptures in the Bible talk about the Star of Jacob or because of various things, and they felt like God was leading them. And maybe there was sort of not, there were sort of, in those days, in our days we would call them astronomers, but they were studying stars and all that of the heavenly bodies, and they believed in God. Evidently they could have been Jewish people from the exile way back here in Babylon and all, Jewish wise men or Magi. And so God blessed them and led them and everything. And so maybe they were Gentiles. Maybe they weren't Jewish people. They were just, not of God's people. But they knew the scriptures maybe. And they realized there's a king that's going to be born. They realized it from the study of stars and different maybe prophecies and all. So anyway, they came. It took them a long time. It takes them a long time with a big group coming. They were pretty rich people, it sounds like. They were loaded with gold, loaded with frankincense and incense. It was very, very expensive. And also myrrh, which was very expensive. And they came all the way up. They came all the way down. And they thought the star was leading them. Do you realize what I'm saying? It's like the cloud by day and the pillar of fire by night in the Bible. The star was leading them. And it seems like they went all the way around here, came down. Maybe it took them a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. I think it was probably 2 years of travel. They took their time and they, prayed a lot probably and all. Anyway, they came down here and the star was this whatever the star was like figure up there in the sky was leading them, and they thought, aha, it must be being led to Jerusalem. Jerusalem was the big holy city. It was a great city, the city of David, the Bible says, all that. And so they thought he was going to be there. So they enter the city, and I don't think it was just 3 people, because all of Jerusalem, all meaning, like a lot, all of them are, I don't know about every single person, possible, hundreds and thousands of people heard about these guys coming in. So it's probably big caravan, camels, donkeys, horses, a bunch of, maybe they had a lot of guards that came with them because they had these rich things, and robbers were really big time in those days. Lots of stories about them, Anyway, they came in there, and the people were like, who are these guys? Look at that. And they're rich and they're famous, kind of not famous probably, but celebrity type, because of, look at all these people. It was a bunch of them. And Herod the Great heard about them in the palace, and he said, who are these guys? And so he invited them to the palace and said, what are you here for? And they said, we came to worship the king. By the way, he is called the king, kind of a client king under Rome. And he was the king of land of Israel, of all this. He had power all over this land right here, and he was the ruler. And they said, well, we came to worship the baby who was born. We followed his star and all that, and here we are to worship. And where is he? He went, who is this? Now, he faked them out. He didn't say, what? Show me so I could kill him. He immediately, jealous. Remember I told you Herod the Great was killing people, trying to keep people from getting his throne. And so he did not like this baby being born king of the Jews, because he was the king of the Jews, he felt. And so he said, well, I wonder where they're from. So he actually called religious people, scribes, people who copied the Bible and all that, also teachers of the law. He people who knew the word of God, and he said, where's your baby? Where's the king supposed to be born? Some king is supposed to be born. And he was acting all nice, like, hey, wow, where is this king supposed to be born? And they told him, oh, well, in Micah 5:2, it says in Bethlehem it's going to be born. It actually says here, but you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means the least of the rulers of Judah. And it says, out of you will come a ruler, and you'll be the shepherd of my people Israel. It's a prophecy about Jesus coming. And so he called the Magi secretly, and after finding out where these was, and he told them, he asked them, by the way, what was the exact time that the star appeared? And they told him. Now, it doesn't say right there, but I think it was 2 years ago. because of what happened later. And then he said, go and make a careful search. Go find this baby. He's in Bethlehem, right underneath Jerusalem. 7 miles, 6 miles down, 5, 6 miles. He said, go find him and then come back and tell me where he is so I can also worship him. He didn't want to worship him, he wanted to kill him. But he faked those kings out, or not kings, he faked those wise men, those Magi out. And so they came outside of Jerusalem, they headed forth, they were real excited, and they saw this star suddenly appear. I think it disappeared with clouds or whatever, or God hid it or something, I don't know. And they were very happy, like exceeding joyful. Oh, there's a star again. And I think it was low enough so it kind of stayed above them, hovering, and came right over Bethlehem and kind of sort of close to where, like, it was kind of shining maybe, where Jesus was. And they went in and they met who? Yosef, Miriam, and Yeshua. And Jesus was a 2-year-old, probably walking around, a little toddler type person. And they found him in the house. It says this, on coming into the house, they saw the child with the mother Mary. He's not in a manger anymore. See, a lot of the things they show the shepherds and Magi meeting Jesus at the same time didn't happen. It's okay. It says, and then they opened their treasures and they presented those gifts, gold, frankincense, myrrh. Wow, if you were the parents, you're going, who are these guys? A big caravan. These are really important people, and I don't know how many, like I said, it could be 3, could be a bunch, several of them. And I don't know. And they opened the treasures and then they kind of went down on their knees and bowed and gave him homage. I don't know that they were worshiping per se, but maybe. And I don't know that they knew exactly that this was a son of God, but they believed he was a king, and they honored this king by bowing down to him. And then it says, and having been warned in a dream, by the way, not to go back to Herod. See, they were supposed to go back. Remember, they're supposed to go back to Herod and say, by the way, it's in Bethlehem. I'll tell you what place. Here's the street name. And they could have given him a street name because they did have street names, the Bible says in the book of Acts. And so they said God warned him in a dream. By the way, in this whole story thing, there were 4 dreams. 4 whole dreams, because God uses dreams, not all the time. Bible says in Job chapter, I think it's 4 or something like that, maybe 4 or 6, 4 I think, maybe 6. It says God speaks in one way or another, and one of them is dreams and visions and all that. And so you got to be careful. Don't just go by dreams, but God did do it. And at this point, he was very active in giving dreams, not only them, but also Joseph. But anyway, so the dream was given, and God said, don't go back to Herod, and warned him. And so they went a different way. So I don't know exactly where. It's possible. I'll just share what I think might have happened. So they're in Bethlehem there with the baby, or the child now, little child. And they definitely didn't go back up to Jerusalem here again. So they could have gone over here to Jericho and then up here. That's a very popular highway and all, and went there. Or maybe they decided we're going to go down this way and go way underneath this desert area and come back up this way and go back home. I don't know, but I'm interested. And maybe they made it into heaven. I'd love to know. I want to know all that stuff. Don't you? Don't you love that stuff? But anyway, and by the way, Herod found out, about that caravan, that they went a different way, and was he mad? Oh, are you kidding? He was infuriated. And so that's when he said, go kill the baby. He said, nobody's going to take my throne. So go kill him. And he said, kill 2 and under. That's why I think he inquired, like, when did you see the star? Like he's acting all curious about it. He wanted to find out when that baby was born. If the star appeared in the same time as the birth of Yeshua, of Jesus, I'm going to kill every baby. So he killed every baby boy 2 years and under. Isn't that horrible? I mean, that, like the weeping that happened and the crying out of the families. If that happened to me, imagine you being a parent and your baby boys just got slaughtered from Roman soldiers coming down there and wiping them out with a sword. Oh, sorry. Ugh, horrible, horrible. And it was a terrible, terrible time. I think that's good. I'll just say, wait. I got to tell you this, the next part of the story. What about Jesus? Did they kill him? Of course not. God protected his son. And so God spoke to Joseph in a dream and said, take the mother and the child and head on out. Get out of Dodge. Get out of there. And so he actually went to Egypt. So he left Bethlehem here and he went that way. So Herod came down that way and he just got out of their nick of time. I love God's timing. Like, I love that. It happens in my life all the time where just at the last second, God tells me or does something or I happen to meet somebody or happen to get some email that right at the right timing. Timing. God's wonderful. So they got out of there. And then I think I'll pick it up next time on the next one. Otherwise, I'll just keep going. I hope you enjoyed it. It's powerful. These are not fictional stories. These aren't fairy tales. It's for real. All right, God bless you.